Good morning, good afternoon from wherever you're calling in or dialing into our session today. We first want to say thank you for joining us. We are seeing people kind of slowly come in, but we want to get started right now at the top of the hour. So we give ourselves enough time to show and share some of the really exciting things we're working on here. So our session today, we're going to be focusing in on Copilot for DevOps version 4. We here at Modern Requirements, the developer of Copilot for DevOps, have been pretty excited about this release. It was something that we had been thinking about, and through our 3 previous releases over the course of the end of last year and throughout this year, this was the one that we were really eyeing as to really cap off 2024 with something special. So we're really excited to share this with you. Before we do, I want to do a couple of quick housekeeping items. Number one, if you're joining today and you see something that's really exciting and you want to share it with your colleagues or other enthusiasts around DevOps or using AI in DevOps, uh, not to worry. We'll be sharing the recording of this session with you via email. Now that stands true for folks who have registered and who weren't able to attend. Not to worry. Or if you've joined late, not to worry. I'll remind everyone at the end that this session will be emailed to them. Number two, we asked that folks ask questions in the questions box throughout the session, whether it's we're showing or sharing something interesting or right during our Q&A session at the end. Please, we encourage everyone to ask away. Oftentimes your questions might be something we have thought through in deep, or maybe something new that maybe we will include in a future release. So we encourage everyone to participate and use that question box. Lastly, we're always looking to provide a more interesting and engaging session. So at the end of our session today, we will be sending a survey, and we ask that if you can spare a few moments, let us know what you liked, what went well, and if there's any areas in which you think that we can improve. We love feedback. Here at Modern Requirements, we have a mantra where we either win or we learn, and so we're always looking to learn and grow and develop. So if there's feedback that you'd like to share, we welcome it. So that being said, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Sheehan. I am the Senior Vice President of Global Sales here at Modern Requirements. Yeah, maybe that picture's a little outdated with a little more hair and a little less gray. Joining me today is our founder, our CTO, the head of Modern Requirements, Copilot for DevOps, and coldest one, Asif Sharif. And so today, in terms of a high-level agenda, our game plan is to have a bit of a fireside chat, talk a little bit about some of the experiences our existing and prospective clients have had using Copilot for DevOps. And then we're going to pivot into showing and sharing some of the new and exciting capabilities we're rolling out with version 4. We'll follow that up with a few slides. So if you're new to Modern Requirements or Copilot for DevOps, I want to share a little bit about our organization afterwards, after our fireside chat. And we'll conclude with a Q&A session where we want to make it as interactive as possible. And as I mentioned earlier, ask whatever questions you have on top of your mind, and we would love to be able to answer that for you. Now, if by chance we don't get to your question or you think of something after the fact, we encourage you to email us at info@copilot4devops.com. And that's 4 with numeric number 4. Again, that's info@copilot4devops.com. So after the fact, if you have any questions, you want to reach out to us directly, you can use that email address. So before we dive into the fireside chat, thank you, Darshini. Before we dive into the fireside chat, I have a bit of a story to share and then a poll. So we had a client of ours, an existing client, a Modern Requirements client, who has sampled Copilot for DevOps, and they were pretty excited about its capabilities. So what they did was they signed up for a 30-day trial for Copilot for DevOps Plus to really do an ROI study to see what is going to be the benefit, what's the impact of their organization, and could they justify enabling as many people as they can with Copilot for DevOps. So here's the poll question. Darshini, do you mind launching the poll? So using Copilot for DevOps Plus, how many hours do you think our clients saved writing test cases for 100 user stories. I'll give everyone a couple of moments here to provide their response. All right. I think we should keep going. I think we're almost there. We almost got critical mass. Okay. All right. Can we share those results? Yes. Okay. Well, so more than half of the folks here believe that it's between 30 and 70 hours. In fact, it was 100 hours. So what they found was that their system quality analysts, assurance for testers, faced challenges around building test cases. It was a manual effort, took a lot of time. So what they did was they took their BAs, they enabled them with Copilot for DevOps Plus. They used Elicit to build those test cases. So they did the 100 user stories, they build those test cases, sent it over to the SQA folks. They reviewed it, made a few edits, and found that for every user story, they saved about an hour of effort in building those test cases. So you do the math. That's 100 hours saving in that 30 days. Divide by 8. That's giving that team 12 and a half hours of bandwidth more every month. Now, in this particular organization, they do about 100 user stories a month. So that's 100 hours saving a month. And that's their experience. So with that ROI case study, they decided that Copilot for DevOps was for them, and they now have enabled it. And because they've enabled Copilot for DevOps Plus for their staff, there's a bit of a surprise we have for them and for all of our early adopters of Copilot for DevOps that we'll share a little bit later on in our conversation. So that being said, I'd like to invite Asif to join us on camera here to talk a little bit about some of the experiences that he's had with our clients. Asif, if you're there, there he is. Welcome, Asif. Oh, you might
Hey
be on
guys.
mute. There you are. So what I was just sharing with the group who's joined us today is that experience that one of our clients had in using Elicit, and they had that much savings in time, but also broadened their bandwidth. I know that you work with very closely with some of our strategic clients. Have you heard of other use cases and other tools within Copilot that have really made a difference for some of our clients?
I think there are two that I want to mention. I think one of the key areas is Elicit. So if you're trying to define requirements and you need to brainstorm, you want suggestions, that's obviously one of the key areas, right? That you can elicit more efficiently. You can define your requirements and details, and you can get to like 80, 90% very quickly. And in fact, if you give it the right context, the quality is phenomenal. That's number one. And of course, the test cases you gave, the example you talked about test cases, along with test scripts, is another key area. It's not just test cases. You can create test scripts for test automation. Um, the other one, which is perhaps the my favorite, is dynamic prompt.
Mine
So
too.
whenever you ask, can Copilot do this? If the answer is no, well, go to dynamic prompt. It can probably do it. I'll give you two examples. In fact, the reason we built dynamic prompt is we've been working with uh, a hospital management system, a company that builds a hospital management system. And what they do is when they implement the system, they get a big list of requirements from their clients that they cross-reference with the capabilities of their system. This cross-referencing at a detail level is a multi-week, multi-person project. It takes a lot of effort to do this. With dynamic prompt, they can do it in an hour. They can set it up, run it, go to lunch, come back, and it's done. So that's one really good example. The other example I have is where one of the clients, we recently were showing them dynamic prompt, and they're already using Copilot, but they didn't know much about dynamic prompt. And when they looked at it, and we spent like 5 minutes doing it,
Mm.
and they go, in these 5 minutes, you just saved us $20,000 because the amount of work they have to manually do was just enormous. And now all of that could be short circuited by using dynamic prompt. So I would say those are probably my two favorite. What
Yeah.
is your favorite, Shian?
My favorite is actually Analyze. And just before I dive into Analyze, I want to share with the folks on the session that dynamic prompt, the ability to do gap analysis, was actually a client request. Around, I think it was like this time last year, maybe, Asif, where they said, hey, wouldn't it be great that you can use AI to compare two queries or compare a query to a standard? And I remember you coming back and us having that conversation, like, how do we make this happen? And, within a few months, we hit that's already in development and it was well underway, and now that's available to everyone. So for everyone on the line, if you have a wish list or you have an idea that, hey, wouldn't it be great that we can do something? Let us know, because you never know. We might be here a year later talking about how it's impacted organizations in a very positive way and saving time and being accurate. But that's besides the point. The one that I really like, and it was kind of a surprise, it's Analyze. Both with internal folks, but also with some of our clients. As if I found that when people are using Analyze, it basically, you take your work item, your test case, whatever it is that you're working on, and you run it through Analyze. It'll score it. It'll tell you where the deficiencies are, but it'll also give you suggestions around where to improve. And so that immediately turns the work item into better quality. So we are enriching what's written. But what was very interesting, what I think that is the biggest takeaway, is that the folks who are writing requirements and writing work items and using Analyze, that they were being coached. The longer they used the tool, the more feedback they were getting. And as a result, what was amazing to see is that the folks who are writing work items are not only producing better work items up front, but their own ability to write improved as well. So it was such an interesting kind of observation after the fact to say, wow, we're getting good results now, but we're also helping our people improve. And that's part that I really feel proud as being head of sales here at Modern Requirements and Copilot4DevOps, is that we're not only making meaningful impacts to the business, but we're helping users of our tool become better at their role from a skill standpoint. So that's the one that really stands out to me. Thoughts on that one, Asif? You've probably noticed that as well within our organization.
Yeah, this in terms of adopting AI. A year ago, I gave my team a mandate, and the mandate I gave the entire development team and beyond, actually, but certainly the focus was on the whole dev team, whether it was requirements engineers or product owners, developers, testers, both manual and automated testers. My mandate to them a year ago was we need to double our productivity. And we recently did we had a get together with the leadership team, and we actually have reached that goal. I think we were probably at like 90% or something, but we were very close to it, of improving our productivity as a team to 2x. My new mandate to the team, ambitious, is 10x in 3 years. Okay. We got to operate at a 10 times productivity. And of course, if you look at AI, the way it's evolving and the way it can really be a powerful tool for us, I think that's the future. So of course, we are pushing the envelope when it comes to AI, but we're also the consumers of what we produce. And that makes the process much more fun to work with.
I can attest to that. That's definitely the mandate that we have. It challenges us to think where we can use it, and that's why I think it was a great experiment over the course of this past year, and really giving ourselves a stretch target for this upcoming year. It's the way I look at my work. Where can I and where can the team use AI to optimize what we're doing to do more with the people that we have? But that really brings me to our four pillars, and I want to share this with everyone, and then we'll pivot the conversation, ask them to show and share some of the exciting things that are going to come to market. But our four pillars, we believe in four things when we're looking at Copilot for DevOps. Is number one, quality. We want to A, put out quality products, but B, help you put out quality products. B, number two, drive productivity. as we are on our journey on trying to use AI in different elements of our business to get to 10x our productivity, we hope to do the same for our clients. So when you look at Copilot for DevOps and modern requirements and Coolest One, our goal is ultimately to help drive productivity within your organization. The third thing is happiness. And when I say happiness, I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to ask you guys on what you guys think about happiness, because when you play with these tools, it's actually a lot of fun. It's actually surprising what's really available and capable today. So we'll come back to happiness. And lastly, the question we get a lot around is security. And I'll dive into a little bit more in security once we show and share some of our new elements, and when we talk a little bit about who we are as an organization, I'll talk about security. But those are the four: quality, productivity, happiness, and security is what really drives us to helping our clients. So with that being said, Asif, I think we've made people wait long enough. We've given them 15 minutes of anticipation. I'd love to kick it off, and maybe we can start with, we talked a little bit about elicitation and how it was a great use case for that client and many of our clients, but then there's improvements in that area. Do you mind showing the folks today the improvements in elicitation?
Yep, for sure. So guys, one thing I want to mention just before we do that,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to think about Copilot for DevOps, or Codeless One for that matter, as a Iron Man suit. Okay. So if you had an Iron Man suit, what could you do? Okay. So if you were turned into a superhero, what would you do with it? And as we go through this, that's the question you need to ask yourselves. What am I going to do with this new superpower? So with that, let's take a look at V4. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And so here is V4. Now, in V4, you will see we have added two new tiles, diagramming and document generator. Before we get into any of these, let's look at what Chen you asked for is with Elicit. Okay. Now, just before I call that, actually, let me go to here. Let me pick this work item. Okay. So I'm going to choose this epic, and I'm going to call V4 Copilot, and I'm going to go to Elicit. Now you saw that in V3, we gave you the ability to drill down and be able to publish work items and see what's under it. And so you can get the features. In this case, I can select a feature and it'll get all the details for it, right? And when I publish it, the work item is now created, but now I can drill down into it. Okay. And that our clients told us they loved it because they didn't have to leave Copilot. They could continue to work on related work items while being in Copilot. And now you can go define your user stories or whatever, right? The one thing that we just implemented is the ability to say, for this ultrasound system, show me what are the linked work items against it. So now what I can do is I can now go ahead and drill down on these and continue to work on it. So you can start with your epic and then navigate through the whole space within Copilot and do all the work you need to do without having to leave Copilot.
Okay. So in other words, Asif, here, what we've done is that we've simplified the user experience so that once you're in Copilot and in Elicit, you can navigate through your linked work items and expand upon them, as opposed to going out and coming back in. Do I have that correct? Yeah.
Yep.
Brilliant.
Sorry, Shay and Asif, do you mind turning the cameras off so we can see the screen much larger?
Yeah, of course.
All right. So guys, this is the new GoToMeeting UI that I think just got launched. So this is new to us as well. So, but all right. So what we're going to do now is the second thing I want to show within Elicit, and we put it in all other places, is this function called open-in. So let's say I am at this improved patient outcome work item. I can now go to, and I can do that for any of the work items, but I'm just going to do it here. And I could go to analyze. What this does, it switches the context. Now, this is the work item I'm working on. Again, what you didn't have to do is close Copilot, go behind the scenes, select another work item, and then go to analyze. Now you can do a smooth transition into analyze for any work item you like through a bunch of places, including all the work items within Elicit. So that's the other one. Okay. And now if I go to let's say this, let's go to this feature. Actually, let's stay on this feature. The third thing I want to show is something that many of our clients were asking for. And that is that when I provide custom instructions, and the custom instructions I'm providing is something I want to save and simply reuse it. Because today what you probably have to do is you have to save it in some scratchpad and then paste it into the custom instructions field. But what we have now done is provided this thing called text blocks. So in text block, you can give it a name, you can give it tags so you can search by it and all that. And you can give it a block of text that can be injected for you. So if I do a user story guide, this is how we like to do user stories within our company. Okay. And so I've referenced this with a slash in it. So I can just do slash user. It'll give me my options. Okay. Or alternatively, I can just go to here and I could say user story guide, insert, it'll put in a slash something in there. Okay. This means that before I run this function, it'll go get the data and plug it in for you automatically so that it doesn't clutter this space. And now it's reusable asset people can use. Now, one thing you should note, there are two types of text blocks. There's shared text blocks and there's my text blocks. Again, if you create it in shared, others can see it. If you create it in yours, it's just for you.
That's amazing. And you know what? That's really in line, Asif, with our DNA here at Modern Requirements and Copilot for DevOps, where we have always strived to helping organizations building templates so that they have a consistent, repeatable process. And one of the things, and just to add context to what you're sharing here, is that organizations were saying, well, we write our user stories in a particular way, or, well, we want all of our requirements in a particular project to consider X. So by having this capability, and this is really for the folks joining us today on the session, is that by having this capability, your organization will now have the ability to tailor and have a templated version of the prompt that's going to help you elicit the requirements that you need. Did I get that right, Asif? Did I articulate that accurately?
Absolutely. Excellent. Absolutely. So let me show you one thing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get some user stories, and you'll see these user stories now produced are actually a lot better than if I'd not given it that instruction, because that instruction tells you how we write user stories in the company, okay? How business rules should be catered within acceptance criteria, and so on. But one of the other things I did was I told it, I want you to use the given, when, then clause in writing the description or acceptance criteria. And because I had that in there, it's actually putting it in there. Okay. So you can choose to specify all the details of your best practices. And the way you author it, you go to the home page, you go to text blocks, and then you create your text. You just create a tag, again, my tag, shared tags, and so on. One of the things you might do, you might create an about MR. So MR is Modern Requirements, which is our company, but you do about my company. And then you write about your company. What industry are you in? What are your sort of drivers? Who do you serve? What industries do you guys serve, and so on? Create a couple of paragraphs on who you are. Then create something on the project you're working on. And then you might even create something on the product you're working on.
Right.
And then what you might do is to create a text block that includes all of the above. So you can include the general context of your company, your product, your project. And when you now call Elicit, it'll remember all of that. It'll have the context, a deeper context of in what space you're working, what product, what project you're working on, and thus be able to provide a lot better response to you.
Yeah, this is definitely
So,
a win.
exactly.
But
This
this is a win
is
for,
amazing.
yeah, it's a win for governance. It's a win for consistency and getting the right sorts of responses you're looking for out of a LLM as opposed to being without context. So that's really exciting, and I think that I hope the folks on the call on the session today feel the same way too. And folks, again, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of our prospective clients wanted to get their hands on this and play with it, and that will be available to you as well. I do want to move on to the next topic, if you don't mind, Asif, because I want to be conscious of time and give folks enough time to ask questions and have a Q&A session. One of the areas that we've got a lot of questions on. So when we launched Copilot a year back, and we've had a couple of iterations throughout the year, a question that we kept getting is, hey, Monarch Arms and Copilot, Copilot for DevOps, how are you guys going to use AI in diagramming? And so, our title of the session today talks about AI and diagramming, and I don't want to make people wait any longer. Asif, I think it's time for us to unveil, our diagramming capability using Copilot for DevOps.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
So, folks, from a diagramming point of view, there's a couple of different modes you can operate in. In this example, I just told you to create a diagram for shopping online workflow with exception and alternate flows. I told you to use subgraphs where applicable, use color for the shapes, and to make it beautiful and professional. Okay. You can give it whatever information you want.
Nice.
But the other thing I did, I said the diagram type should be auto. It'll sort of detect based on my narrative what it should do. And I told it ignore any work item that are currently selected. Okay. I can turn it on or off. In this case, it's off. So based on this, it actually comes up with this diagram. Okay. There you are. Okay. So it's created a diagram. Now what you can do at the bottom is you have this another prompt area. You can further prompt it from here and say include details or shipment in this process. Okay. And then you can hit enter and it'll continue to fine tune this model based on your input. What you can also do is you can click on this button to open it up in a new window. You can also zoom in and zoom out as you need to. And you can copy this into a clipboard and an image will get copied from here. Okay. The other thing you can do is you can go to explanation. And when you go to explanation, you can have it generate a narrative of it. And it's going to take a look at it and say, hey, based on this, this is what you should do. I mean, this is the explanation of the workflow. So it's giving you a narrative on it. And then you see this styling is probably not relevant. So I can go here, I can say remove styling and have it go and get rid of the styling component from it.
Very cool.
So that styling is gone. I could also say create a create a use case for this flow, and it would go to that. Okay, so you can create that. Now what you can do is you can go ahead and you can say, I want you to publish this as a new work item, and maybe I'll publish this as a epic, and that's the name that it's automatically given. Of course, I can change it, and I can just publish it. So that work item is now published, and here's that work item. I can open up the work item, look at the details in here. Okay. And what you can also do now is you can do an open in. I can open this in Elicit and continue to sort of drill down and define related requirements for this process.
Amazing.
Or I can open this up in, say, generate and create my pseudocode for this, or my test script for this. Okay. So this open in again is in a lot of different places. That's coming in V4.
Amazing. And I see potentially a couple of questions coming in and we'll tackle those questions during our Q&A session. So that's amazing. Is there anything else you want to show with diagramming before we?
Do.
Okay.
I do. There's a bunch of things I want to show. This is
Right,
such an exciting space. So the other type of diagram you can create is a sequence diagram. Okay. So in this case, I told him I have a shopping online workflow. I selected the diagram type to be sequence diagram. Okay. And that's it. It actually looked at that epic or that requirement or multiple requirements you could have selected, and it's giving you a sequence diagram for it. Okay. Here is a mind map. So I gave it, in this case, a bunch of requirements under consulting management system, and actually created a mind map for me. Okay. Or
do you mind going back on that, Asif, for a moment? So in that screen that you just shared, Asif, one back where you included work items, those are work items that are currently in the Azure DevOps instance. So this would be in our client's Azure DevOps instance. These are work items that are existing there. So they're leveraging content they already have to help build out this mind map. I just want to make sure that my understanding is clear and clear for the folks on the session today.
Yes, that is correct. So I just multi-selected work item when I invoke this, although you can always call upon this and add the work items as you need to. But these were pre-selected through the backlog view when I invoked it, so it just showed up here automatically.
Amazing.
The other thing you can do is, let's say I've already published a diagram on this work item. So when you open it up and you go to diagramming, it'll tell you there was a diagram published. This work item was created. There's a diagram in this work item. So you say, just show it to me. Then it'll show you that this let me close this ultrasound system has these sort of capabilities. This is the capability decomposition. Okay, based on that. And by the way, so of course you can create explanation, but on the right panel, okay, one of the things you see, there's a diagram markdown. So you could update your markdown directly in here. So let's say I don't want to have that label there. You can get rid of this. You can see this got updated. So you can update this markdown directly in here, or you can just prompt it and tell it how do you want it to evolve. You can also say you wanted this in a rough UI view. So it'll show you sort of, you can see it's become a bit, it's more hand-drawn kind of feel to it. But more importantly, one of the things you have is you have the ability to create sub-diagrams. So you go to the right panel, you go to this tab, you can see in this case, I already have a sub-diagram that I've already published. And then this is what the sub-diagram looks like. And now I can navigate between things, right? So you can define a high-level diagram and then define your sub-diagrams underneath it and publish them to have parent-child or whatever relationships you please. I've got a couple of other types of diagrams. There are many more, but here's an ERD. So I give it the requirements, and I said, for all of these requirements, give me my ERD diagram. So give me my entity relationship diagram. And okay, I don't have an explanation, but you can generate it. But this is a good one. This is the class diagram. Okay. So you'll see that we have requirements things, we have technical diagrams, we have developer-centric diagrams. This is the class diagram. Okay. So what I did with this class diagram is I then went to the explanation and it gave me a default explanation. But I said, no, 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 don't do that. Give me the source code for each of these classes in Node.js format. So I told it to, oh no, I did that within the explanation window. So I told him to do this for in Node.js format, I think, or JavaScript format, and it's actually giving me all the code for each of the classes. Okay. And if you go to say you generate an ERD, you can say in the explanation, you can say, give me my DDL, right? So that your database can be created with the DDLs, right? So this really is a diagramming tool with related context for a lot of different use cases. And then that's it. So yeah, guys, so that's really diagramming a ton of possibilities, both visually and textually. You can drill down, you can save, you can open it up and continue to work on it. Hopefully you guys will love this as much as I do.
Before we move to the third topic you asked, if I want to just share one thought, what I want to make sure that the folks, listening to this session or watching the session or even joining us today is that in both examples where we looked at Elicit and we're able to drill into work items, and then in diagramming where we were able to leverage existing content that you have, Copilot for DevOps is an extension into Azure DevOps. So if you're using Azure DevOps today, if anyone in your organization is using Azure DevOps today, they can enable Copilot for DevOps in it and leverage the content they already have and enrich it and build off of it. So it's not like you have to start from scratch. Where this really shines is if you're already using EDO, this can really accelerate your productivity and accuracy. So I just want to share that thought. Like, there's ability to leverage what you already have in this tool. With that being said, Asif, I want to make sure we show and share document generation, because transfer of knowledge within your organization is really what helps build good process and build repeatable processes. So I'll turn it back to you to show document generator.
For sure.
Yeah.
So guys, document generation. Okay, so there's a couple of use cases I'll show you. So here is a use case where I basically told him to give me a design document for the consulting management system. I give it the epic and the features. I give it a narrative of the types of technology I want to use. I told it it's a SaaS application. I told him that it's a web app I want. I told him which standards I'm interested in, right? So I can tell him what standards I'm interested in. It'll give me some recommendation even, or I can just type in myself. And then when I click generate, it gave me this document. Okay. So just let's take a look at the table of content here. So it goes through a multi-tier microarchitecture of React front-end, Node.js, whatever, functional requirement, from a requirements point of view, here are the key modules of it. From a non-functional perspective, from an accessibility perspective, your integrations, your technical specs, and so on and so forth. Okay. So it starts to put a framework around this whole thing, and then you can further prompt it to fine-tune it. Okay. So that's one example. And then ultimately you can save this to Word or PDF and then do as you please with it. Okay. But the context to generate this thing was these fields, the document name, the industry, the product type, the standards you want to consider. Only the title is required. And in narrative, you can provide some instructions, not required, but you can if you have additional direction you want to provide, and the work items. Now, what you could do is you could disable the this thing and say, don't consider these. just consider this and produce something for me. Okay, and then it'll do that for you. Here is another use case. In this case, what I've done is I've told him I want a requirements engineering SOP, a standard operating procedure for software development for medical devices. Okay? And I want this at least to be a level 2 CMMI, following a 9001 2015 ISO standard. Okay? And then based on that, it produced this document for us. And again, what we'll do is we'll just take a look at the table of content here. So it goes from the importance of software development for medical devices, your compliance to these standards, your elicitation, your analysis, your specification, your validation and verification. Of course, those are critical for all systems, but certainly for medical or life sciences systems, your change management, your traceability, and on and on and on. So now you have got this to start with. Also, imagine you've got requirements. You've got many requirements. You can say, you know what, take these requirements, summarize it for me. So I can give him 20 requirements. I say, give me a summary of the system, or create a user manual for me, or create a release note for me. You can just imagine what you want it to do. And give it the right context, right? Give him the right work items, give him the right instructions as to what you want it to do, right? You'll find that we actually were working with a scenario where we were working to create a design history file based on the work items and information we had for it. Okay. So folks, what you'll find is that as we are looking at these new functions that we've added, you'll find that there are things we should do to make it better. Please let us know. Mm-hmm. You probably saw how we made Elicit, like every release we have made it better, and better, right? Mm-hmm. Analyze now supports multiple methods. In V5, we're adding some additional stuff to analyze, and so on. So we'll be constantly evolving these things, but most importantly, we evolve this based on feedback from you all, from our customers, our users of Copilot. So please let that information keep coming to us as to how we can make it better. But this is our first release of these two capabilities. I think you'll love it with what we have, but I'm sure you'll find ways for us to make it better.
You know, with document generator, I really feel that it's going to be like dynamic prompt, where when we put it in the hands of our clients, they're going to find very interesting and new ways on leveraging it. Like when we saw with dynamic prompt, they're doing comparisons to ISO standards and using it to do gap analysis. I think document generator, we haven't even scratched the surface on its capabilities. Or what it can do and what it can produce. But now that the capability is there, it's going to be very exciting to see what our audience ends up doing with it. So just before we go into a couple quick slides and jump into Q&A, I want to make sure we get into that. Is there anything else you want to share that we may not have covered in those three areas with this release, Asif?
Right. So there is a few new stuff we are releasing in the admin area now. So as the administrator of Copilot, one of the things you'll be able to do is to enable Entra ID. The Entra ID is just the new name for Azure AD. Okay. The recommended approach by Microsoft going forward is this be used to provide enable access or embedding of Copilot within Azure DevOps. So basically, you enable it, you give it a consent as an admin, and it will now Azure AD will give permission to this extension. So we have provided that. Now you don't have to. If you don't do that, it'll be used the old way. But this is the recommended way from Microsoft now. Okay. The other thing you can do is you can disable with this checkbox. You can actually disable um, the use of tags. And what that means is that tagging, so you remember that when you publish something from Copilot as a work item, that work item ends up with a tag called Copilot4DevOps. You can disable it so it doesn't put a tag. Now, why might you want to do that? Generally, that's a good idea. But we actually had a client that came and said, some of the users using Copilot may not have um, a basic license of ADO. They are stakeholders, but they want to still use it. So this way, they can still use it if you disable this. So when something gets published, it doesn't have to use a tag, and tagging requires you to have a basic license. So we give you the option to disable this. Okay. Now, you remember from V3, we actually added the ability to bring your own LLM. Okay. So if you don't use our LLM, you want to bring your own LLM and you want to use, say, OpenAI or Azure services for that, you can actually bring your own LLM. So that was already released in V3. Okay. We will be releasing O1 Mini as part of our collection of models we are going to make available. So O1 Mini is a more hungry model from a token perspective, but it is more intelligent. So when I showed you this example, no, not this one. Okay. When I showed you this code, you'll see I use O1 Mini. O1 Mini is good for reasoning, and which means it can write better code. So I used O1 Mini there. Okay. And lastly, bring your own data. So we are releasing a service called BYOD, where you can activate a license. So you need to buy a license for BYOD, and this BYOD thing will allow you to upload your files. So let's say you have user manuals, you have old requirements documents, you have standards, you have whatever information you have that might be proprietary, you can upload it here. You can also reference queries from your ADO projects. So you can say, okay, I want you to take all the data from this query and learn from it. Of course, the learning would only be used for your benefit. Nobody else will ever get access to it or be benefited by it. This is exclusively and privately for you. It's your private LLM is being built based on your data. And you can also reference wiki pages within ADO so that all of that data can be used for learning, which in turn can be used in Elicit or other areas of Copilot. Okay, so that's being released for the first time. We're going to label it beta. This is only supported today. It is only supporting OpenAI because Azure Microsoft is working on supporting this properly. We expect them to have this ready in a few weeks, hopefully, and with V5, we will bring out Azure as an option for BYOD as well. Okay, so this is coming out, and a lot of people I know have been waiting for this because an LLM that knows you really well is very powerful. So both BYOD and what we looked at from a text block perspective, I think will be extremely helpful in bringing your knowledge into the conversation we're having with AI.
Yeah, couldn't have put it better, Asif. And really, ultimately, the BYOD, the bring your own data, is really the holy grail. If you think about it, the ability to iterate upon your own IP in a safe and secure manner can really accelerate what makes your organization unique and get to that next level, get to a better version of what you are today. So that being said, I have a couple of quick items I want to share with you all, and then we're going to dive right into the Q&A. So Asif, I'm going to take over the screen if you don't mind. All right. So folks, we talked a little bit about quality and productivity. And, so I'm going to really spend my time on happiness and security. Happiness. Now, given what you've seen with the additional capabilities around Elicit, this is for all levels of Copilot, by the way, the Elicit capability in this new version, how does that make you feel? How will that change the way you work? How will that improve your day? How will it help you blast through that writer's block? From what we've been hearing from our clients and even folks who are on trial, is that it really does make an impact on their day-to-day experience. In terms of security, now a question that we keep getting is, hey, it's an open prompt. Why in dynamic prompt you can just prompt, or in diagramming you can put a prompt and get a diagram. Why don't I just use ChatGPT? Why do I want to use this instead of that? Well, as an organization, ensuring your people are using an enterprise level API where it's encrypted both ways and learning is turned off is valuable. Also, the fact that it's natively integrated into Azure DevOps, they're working within one UI. In the alternative, if you say, you know what, why don't we just have our people use ChatGPT, the risk from a security perspective is, how do you guarantee that the people using ChatGPT in your organization haven't turned off learning? How do you know that your IP is not getting exposed for learning? That's the reason why we really believe by having a natively integrated experience, leveraging enterprise level APIs is the best way to enable your people in using AI in a responsible and productive way. So I wanted to share that thought with you folks before we moved on. For folks who are joining us, or seeing this for the first time and getting first exposure to modern requirements and Copilot for DevOps, quick history lesson. We have been a Microsoft partner for over a decade. We've been in business for over 20 years, and we are available on the Microsoft Azure Marketplace. Microsoft leadership, Nicole Desmond on the left, and on the right, Kevin Scott. Nicole Desmond, the Chief Partner Officer. She highlighted us in 2023 as a key AI transformation partner. And then this year in Build, Kevin highlighted us as a AI transformation partner as well. So, Microsoft loves us, our clients love us, but really what you're probably thinking about is, okay, how's this going to work for us? How's this going to work for our organization? So a couple of things. Having Azure DevOps is kind of a prerequisite. You want to have it. Then having Copilot for DevOps enabled into it allows you to create content, enrich it using Analyze, understand it better using dynamic prompt, build out diagrams. So you're building all this rich content. Then sitting on top of that, you can also get modern requirements, and modern requirements will allow you to build documents, allow you to do review management, all within the Azure DevOps experience. It'll allow you to do traceability. Modern requirements will also allow you to do impact assessment to manage change. So those two things coming together, Azure DevOps with Copilot for DevOps building out content, and then modern requirements helping you orchestrate it, is the optimal solution in you working with ADO. Now, if you are an existing modern requirements user, well, you already have access to Copilot for DevOps Lite, which is some of those capabilities. But if you want to get some of the advanced capabilities, then we encourage you to consider Copilot for DevOps Plus or Ultimate. So these are all the capabilities that Copilot for DevOps does offer, and in different tiers, they'll offer different levels of it. So in Lite, as I mentioned, it's going to be what's available today as part of the modern requirements suite of tools. Copilot for DevOps Plus and Ultimate can be standalone experiences. So if you are an ADO user, you can purchase either Plus or Ultimate and not have to have modern requirements. But what you'll find is, as you build out rich content, you'll want to have modern requirements to help you orchestrate it. And so we'll be sharing this at the end of the call. So you have a copy of this so you can understand how it all breaks down. I want to kick off two quick polls, and we're going to dive right into the Q&A. So, Darshan, do you mind kicking off the first poll? All right. Prior to V4 Ultimate, which was your favorite feature in Copilot for DevOps? Dynamic prompt. Okay. I'll give everyone a moment to respond. Okay. Yep. We're a third of the way there. I want to get to at least 2/3, folks. Okay. Halfway there. Okay. So number one, it's looking like most folks loved Elicit. Second place is dynamic prompt. I can totally see why. And third, being analyzed. Yeah, the impact on having your folks being coached by AI and improving their writing skills on top of having immediate benefit. Yeah, totally. That totally makes sense to me. And one more poll, and we're going to dive into Q&A. Which feature of V4 Ultimate are you excited to get your hands on first? Diagramming, document generator, generate pseudocode and test scripts, or all? Okay. Almost getting to critical mass. Okay. So it looks like everyone wants to get their hands on everything. Document generator is taking a slight edge over diagram. Well, thank you, folks. That was thank you for responding, and let's dive into some of these questions. All right. So first question: is the BYOD license an extra license in addition to Copilot for DevOps Plus, or is it part ultimate licensing? Asif?
Yes.
It's
So this is a separate license. So the BYOD is not a user-based license. It is a account level or collection level license. Okay. So you need one license for this for your entire account. You get about 10,000 people on it. Doesn't matter. You'll need one license on it. It's distinct from user licenses.
Okay. The next question is, we currently have Copilot for DevOps. Is it possible to test Copilot for DevOps Plus? And the answer to that is yes. So within Copilot UI, you'll have the ability to upgrade for a trial to play with Copilot for DevOps Plus, or you can reach out to us directly. We'll happily enable Plus for you. As a trial, you'll get a ration of tokens for you to play with those capabilities. By the way, this is for folks who are actually on the call as well as listening to this after the fact. If you purchase Copilot for DevOps Plus before December 31st, 2024, we're going to be including a free upgrade to Ultimate, additional tokens, additional capabilities for the length of the contract you sign. So if you sign for an annual subscription, or let's say you do a 3-year prepay, for whatever length of contract you sign up for, you will get the upgrade from Plus to Ultimate at no additional charge. So to answer the question, yes, you can, if you have Copilot for DevOps and you want to try Plus, you do have the ability to do so. Okay, will you be increasing the tokens as you continue to add more functionality to Copilot for DevOps Plus? The answer to that is yes. Maybe Asif, if you want to quickly highlight the increase in tokens that we're offering our clients for Plus and Ultimate.
Yeah. So we are increasing the token count for Plus to 15 million tokens. We will have a new blog up on the token calculation for so 15 million, 15 million for Plus and 50 million for Copilot Ultimate. And the reason we are doing 50 million for Ultimate is because generating documents and diagrams can be heavy on that. Plus, people have been running out of tokens even with 10 million tokens. So we have upped it. And also, when you use models like O1 Mini, that's going to also be more token hungry, as I mentioned. So we are upping the count, especially with Ultimate. You'd have 50 million. Hopefully, that should suffice, at least until we bring out even more powerful features in due course.
Thank you, Asif. This is a good segue to the next question, which is, when you were using the Elicit, you had GPT-4o Mini. In diagram, you showed GPT-4o. Do we need to change this depending on the area we were using Copilot?
Yes. You should have your best practice established. So generally, I find 4o Mini can do a pretty good job with Elicit, even with analyze, um, and but but when it comes to diagramming, we find 4.0 is better, or 0.1 mini would be better. And document generator, again, the same 4.0 or 0.1 mini is better. Now, if you are on Ultimate, and if you're already a Copilot user, as Shian mentioned, you'll be given the Ultimate license anyways for the term of your contract, which means that you'd have 50 million tokens. So if you're in that camp, I just make 4.0 as my default. Okay. I have that as a 4 as my default, and only when you're generating code or doing more things that require reasoning, I change it to 0.1 mini. Otherwise, I just use 4.0. If you're using plus, maybe I'd use mini most of the time, but switch to 4.0 if I'm not happy with my results.
Perfect. I have this question here. It came earlier on in the call or in the session, and the question was, can you select multiple items at once?
Yes, you can. So for example, if I go here, I could choose all of these features and call Copilot. And when I call Copilot, you will see the options reduce because only these options support. So if you want to analyze multiple work items at once, or you want to do impact assessment on multiple work items, or use dynamic prompt to do document generation or diagramming, or create test scripts on multiple at once. So yes, you can, and then these options will show up accordingly.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, this question is more about the case study. It says, what industry or functional vertical was the study on? Was it a US or Canadian-based company? Was this done by QA and or who did the use case? So quick, without getting permission on saying which organization, I can tell you that it was financial services. It was US-based, and the BA leader is the one who is already testing and piloting Copilot to begin with, and she saw a real opportunity to use Plus and get the additional tokens and drive value. So that's the reason why the BAs are the ones who did the test cases for those 100 user stories and shared it with the QA folks. And when the QA folks saw it, they're like, wow, all we need to do is edit this and we're good to go. So that's a little bit more context. So US based financial services, and the ROI was the study was conducted by a BA leader at the organization. Okay, next question. We've answered a bunch of these. Okay. Regarding diagramming, what if it is for the risk management assessment for financial system that is responsible for regulatory requirements? Example, EU Act, Canadian regulations, would it have no information? And if that is the case, would the user be the one to educate, train Copilot? So I guess
Yes.
Go ahead, Asif.
Yeah. So the way it works is this: if that information is and has been in the public domain for some time, then the system the LLM would already know about it. So the AI system already is aware of these things. Okay. Unless it's a standard that just came out. If it just came out, then maybe it won't. But let's assume for now it's not known. It's not in the public domain. Okay. In that case, what you will do is one of two things. One, you can go and create a text block on that standard, and
Wow,
and
that's great.
you sort of put the text here and then simply reference this wherever you want to refer to that standard. Okay. So that's one way to do it. The other is if you have BYOD, you can upload those artifacts, say PDF documents or Word documents or text files, into BYOD so that it can learn about it and thus will know about it.
Yeah, that's actually a really good use case for text blocks, Asif. Even if it's not a standard that is not publicly, or so new, even if it's an internal standard, that's a great use case for a text block. Next question. When you generate a diagram, can you edit it directly?
So you can edit it directly, but the way you can edit it is one of two ways. Okay. So the first way you can edit it is through the markdown. So you can update the markdown. And in the markdown, so I could say begin. So this changes the text here. You can't edit it directly in here kind of model. You have to do it through the markdown. Okay. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is you basically come here and you give it further instructions. Okay. And then it'll update it based on your further instructions. Those are the two ways you can do it. We will be bringing this directly into MR diagramming later on so that you can actually have this become part of the MR diagram. And then you can do all the drag and drop and double click and change in the MR diagram module. So that will be coming hopefully in our spring release.
Excellent. I want to be conscious of time. It looks like some of the other questions that were asked were answered in text, so I'll just read a couple of them real quick. One of the questions were custom templates for document generator, question mark. And the answer was yes, in the prompt, you can give it a template structure and perhaps use text block to pass that template through. So in other words, creating that repeatable, predictable process, use text blocks to put your template there and then reference that as Asif's showing on the screen right now to have a standardized process. That could be your template by using text blocks. I'll read this one aloud. A suggestion could be to combine the document generator together with the idea behind the smart doc. So we can reuse requirements or other work items or just drag and drop them into the document generator. The response was, go ahead.
That's already coming. So we are at the verge of releasing update 1 for model requirements 2024 shortly. And when that's released, you will see that there's an option for multi-selecting work items from your smart doc and call Copilot and then do any of these things that we do. So it'll basically be multi-select, call Copilot, and then go to document generator or wherever and do your analysis or generate documents or diagrams.
Excellent. And that will conclude the Q&A portion of our session today. Thank you, Asif. I have a couple of quick closing comments, and I want to turn it back to you to share your thoughts. But for everyone who's joined the call or anyone who is viewing this session online, you do qualify for a 30-day free trial. You can reach us through the Azure Marketplace, through the Visual Studio Marketplace, or directly through www.copilot4devops.com, where you can initiate a trial directly there, and someone from our staff will reach out to you and set that up for you. Again, here's a few other ways of contacting us. And do keep in mind, at the end of this session, you will be receiving a survey on how we could potentially improve these sessions. And lastly, at the end of this session, you will be receiving an email with the recording. Please feel free to pass that along to your colleagues if you've seen something exciting and you want to share what's coming through new from Modern Requirements. With that being said, Asif, I'll turn it back to you for your final thoughts.
All right. So folks, our hope is to make you all superheroes in whatever work you do. So all the tooling we are developing within Modern Requirements or Copilot or Codeless One is to make you smarter, better, faster, so that you can produce higher quality products for your end users. So we should actually make capes, superhero capes for all our users. I think that'd be a good idea to note, Shian. And we wish you well. Please keep your thoughts coming towards us. We continue to invest a lot of time and effort and money into building the best tools we can with your support. And I wish you all happiness and a wonderful day. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Have everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.